Dr. Nursia Hami, Deputy Dean Academic and International, Dean Business School of Technology Management and Logistics, University Utara Malaysia, Associate Professor M. Farizal Rajmi, PhD PTech from University Utara Malaysia, Professor Dr. Ahmad Saharudin Abdul Latif from Putra Business School, Profesor Dr. Arif Satria, SPMSI, Rector of IPB University, Profesor Dr. Rizal Dibur from IPB University, Dr. Irkan Fahmi, MHC, Dean School of Business, IPB University, Dr. Nimi Zulbainarni, SPI, MSI, Vice Dean School of Business, IPB University, University Utara Malaysia Team, Putra Business School Team, and our distinguished participants. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and we're delighted to welcome you to Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022. Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022 brings together contributions from students and scientists dealing with different aspects of business management and innovation. And we believe that there is also an equal number of promising study project and prospectus results. For the main theme of BIEC 2022 is smart technology to mitigate climate change issue to support sustainable development. And it is with great honor, my name is Maipa Diapati Aliyah, and I will be your master of ceremony for this conference. Before we begin the conference, let us take a moment to listen to Indonesian National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, for the opening session, we will hear a welcome speech from Dr. Irkan Fahmi, MHC, Dean of School of Business, IPB University. To Dr. Irkan Fahmi, the room is yours.
You're mute.
Sir, excuse me, you're on mute.
Okay. Is it okay now? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maipa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Good morning to all of you. Honorable Rector BIEC, Professor Dr. Arif Satria, our Vice Rectors, Directors of International Program, IPB University, our distinguished keynote speakers, Prof. Rizal Dibur, Prof. Haim Hilman Abdullah from University Utara Malaysia, and Prof. Amin Chua from Vienna University of Technology, Austria, and University Utara Malaysia team, you from Putra Business School team, all BIM Business and Innovation Management lecturers, and all BIEC conference participants and Committee. Welcome to the second Business Innovation and Engineering Conference. We call it BIEC. This conference is hosted by the School of Business, IPB University, Indonesia, and co-hosted by our great partners, University Utara Malaysia and Putra Business School Malaysia. Thank you for the great cooperation so far. Hopefully this collaboration will continue in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, the main theme of BIEC 2022 is promoting technology to mitigate climate change issues to support sustainable development. The conference is held virtually from today, 11th of August, until the 12th of August 2022, I mean. BIEC 2022 is held with the goals of exchanging information on recent research issues related to business innovation and engineering, expanding international cooperation network, and generating internationally reputable and nationally accredited publications. The main topics in this conference are, but not limited, on business engineering, sustainable practices, and multidisciplinary approach to the issues. This conference is also a closing event of the Business Innovation and Management summer course held by sb-ipb, which was conducted already from July 1st to 9th of August 2022. In this conference, keynote speakers from international co-hosts and oral presentation in the parallel session will be the main event, alongside the e-poster display and presentation. A student competition will also be hosted as an integrated event. We will choose later on and select the best paper, best presenter, and best poster. We are proud to announce that we received for this year conference a total of 55 submissions for BIEC, from which 53 participants are going to present their paper virtually, and 2 participants are accepted as e-poster presenters. And the presenters come from 13 university institution in 4 countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Poland, and Austria. And also 109 BIM summer course students who are automatically enrolled in this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to close this opening speech by thanking Rector of IPB University, Prof. Arif Satria, who has set a special time to be with us today to deliver a welcoming speech. And also University Utara Malaysia team, Putra Business Schools team, our honorable keynote speakers and parallel session moderators, and surely our lovely participants, without whom this BIEC conference will never happen. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Prof. Dr. Nur Hasmi Usman, Dean of School of Technology, Management and Logistics, and also to PBS President and CEO, Prof. Dr. Azmawani Abdul Rahman. On behalf of the School of Business, IPB University, the organizing committee, and I would like to apologize if during this event there may possibly any inconvenience or anything that does not meet your expectation. Last but not least, have a productive conference, productive event, and enjoy the conference. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Iken Fahmi, for the welcome speech. And ladies and gentlemen, we will hear an opening remarks from Professor Arif Satria, Rector of IPB University. To Professor Arif Satria, the room is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, selamat siang, good afternoon. Firstly, please allow me to extend our welcome to all honorable, distinguished participants, keynote speakers, lecturers, participants of Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022. IPB was founded in 1st of September 1963 as a form of visionary thinking from leaders of the nation and those that care about agriculture in higher education, so that this big nation would have a world-class university that has competencies in agriculture, bioscience, and various related fields. This matter was intended to enhance food security, bioenergy, job creation, poverty eradication, and to preserve the environment. The birth of IPB on 1st September, based on the decision of the Minister of Higher Education and Science, and inaugurated by the first President of Indonesia. Our tagline is inspiring innovation with integrity in agriculture, ocean, bioscience for sustainable life. Ladies and gentlemen, IPB University is a higher education institution that produces innovations with a nationally and internationally acknowledged quality. For 10 years straight, IPB has the most innovation compared to other universities in Indonesia based on appraisal from the Business Innovation Center, Ministry of Research and Technology and Higher Education of Indonesia, with the percentage of 39%. Ladies and gentlemen, in the beginning of 2019, the name of Bogor Agricultural University was changed to IPB University. This new name was born from the long process of IPB rebranding activities. Dualism has long taken place in the translation of the name of Institut Pertanian Bogor into English. The reason why the word university was chosen began with the thought that IPB had long developed and offered more and broader study programs from time to time. Therefore, the name of IPB University as a brand will build a broader association and promise higher value. The short name IPB will also provide more space to associate with things that are contemporary and modern. Currently, IPB is not only an abbreviation, but also as a brand. There are a number of corporate brands that take the strategy to not only provide simplicity in pronunciation, but also to be more solid in exposure and explain the promise of the brand. For this reason, IPB changed the brand from Bogor Agricultural University to IPB University. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we would like to thank the University Utara Malaysia, Utara Business School, and the organizing committee coordinated by the acting dean of the School of Business, IPB University, for their excellent efforts in organizing this conference. We wish all of you a productive and fruitful conference. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open this international conference. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Arif Satria, from the insightful remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let us begin the first plenary session. In this plenary session, we will invite two keynote speakers with us. Our first keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Rizal Dibur from IPB University. And our second keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Hilman Abdullah from University Utara Malaysia. And this session will be moderated by Associate Professor M. Farizal Rajmi, PhD BTech from University Utara Malaysia. He is a Vice President for Asian European University Network and also an officer serving the Territorial Army Regiment with the rank of Captain. He's an expert in sustainable and green manufacturing and got his doctoral degree in the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. To Professor Farizal Rajmi, you may lead this session. The room is yours.
Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to everybody. So welcome to the Business Innovation and Engineering Conference, BIEC, on the 11th of August, 2022. And I'm very happy today that we have two distinguished, thank you, Madam Chairman. All right. Basically, I'm very happy to introduce you our two speakers, which is Professor Dr. Rizaldi, also Professor Dr. Himan Abdullah. And for the first session, Professor Rizaldi is already here with us, I suppose. Prof. Rizaldi, you are here, correct? Prof?
Yes, I am here, sorry.
Cantik, Prof. Cantik.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Well,
Before we start, I would like to introduce Professor Rizaldi Bo first. All right. So
right.
basically, Professor Rizaldi Bo is a professor in the IPB University and a senior researcher at the Center for Climate Risk and Opportunity Management in Southeast Asia and Pacific. He received his doctoral degree from the University of Sydney, Australia in 1994. He's currently working on the climate change mitigation and adaptation, particularly on the agriculture, forest, and other land issues since 1998. He's very active in conducting several studies related to policies, low carbon and climate resilient development. He involved in many international scientific teams, national research missions, and several scientific projects of the United Nations and high-level global players, specifically on the REGD with the UN CCC, SDSN, IDRI, DANIDA, IGIS, JICA, and NICE. He has been appointed as the chairperson of the RAV Regional Agricultural Meteorology Working Group from 2002 until 2009 for the World Meteorological Organization and a member of the Task Force Bureau for the IPCC Greenhouse Gas Inventory from 2008 until 2015. And currently he now serves as the chairman of the expert board of the Indonesian Agricultural Meteorology Society, as well as a member of advisory board for the Asian Greenhouse Gas Inventory Working Group, WGIA, and the Asian Low Carbon Research Network, LOCARNET. So without wasting any further time, I would like to invite Professor Rizaldi to present his work as the first invited speaker in this Business Innovation and Engineering Conference, BIEC. So the floor is yours, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Farizal. So please allow me to share my screen. So for this opportunity, I would like to share a bit about the carbon pricing policy for supporting climate change mitigation. It is what Indonesian case. And I think probably will be useful when the audience know about the progress that has been made by government of Indonesia in terms of implementation of the climate change policy. So the title is Carbon Pricing Policy for Supporting Climate Change Mitigation, an Indonesian case. As we know, Ban Ki-moon has mentioned that the climate change is the single greatest threat to a sustainable future, but at the same time, addressing the climate challenge present a golden opportunity to promote prosperity, security, and brighter future for all. So I think it is quite important to understand that addressing the climate change and the climate challenge actually provide also opportunity for all of us. It's only a matter how actually we respond into these important issues. Why actually climate change is in the state of emergency? As we know, that actually the emission of greenhouse gas has increased very rapidly, starting in 1950s. Then if this continues, as we all know, that the global warming might reach more than 2 degrees Celsius. And if this happens, that might threaten our sustainability of the livelihood. And you can see here from the IPCC report, it is quite clear that actually global temperature increased very rapidly. And then actually at present, compared to the pre-industrial era, so the increase of global temperature reached 1.2 degrees. And we know that from the recent report of the IPCC, if the increase of the global temperature more than 1.5 degree, and the impact of climate change will be difficult to handle. I think we also require huge investment to address the impact of climate change. So that's why what are the global target is trying to limit the emission of greenhouse gas to avoid the concentration of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere more than 450 ppm. So by doing this, actually, we hope that the change of climate can still able to be managed or to be controlled. And then what are the quota in order to avoid the increase of global temperature more than 1.5 degrees Celsius? So actually the quota in the atmosphere, if we assume that actually the quota is only 770 gigaton of CO2, gigaton CO2 in the future, and there is a possibility that actually the increase of the global temperature to more than 1.5 degrees, 50%. Of course, we don't want that to happen, so we have to make sure that the increase of the global temperature should be not more than 1.5 degree. So the quota should be reduced to 570 gigaton. So if we release this volume or this amount of greenhouse gases, and the probability of not exceeding 1.5 degrees increased to 66%. So that's what actually the target of the global. But the problem is actually, if we look at the global warming that already happened now, actually also melt the permafrost in the pole, actually release also about 100 gigaton of CO2, yeah, because the gas is trapped below the ice, is released to the atmosphere, which is also reduce the quota from 570 to 470. So we know that the current state of the emission is 42 gigaton of CO2. So if there is no change in the way we develop, and we still continue the emission is at level 42, and then it means that in 10 or 20, 12 years, all the quota will be full. So it means we use all the quota, and our atmosphere will be full of CO2 or greenhouse gases, and then the increase of the global temperature more than 1.5 degrees cannot be avoided. And this also exposes us into a difficult condition. Climate change will happen more intense and more frequent, and of course this also affect all our livelihood. So that's why in order to avoid that, so all the nations agreed in the Paris Agreement, as you know, that we need to change the way we develop, and with target of reaching zero net emission by the mid of this century. So if we make an illustration, what act to the condition that we need to achieve, so in order to avoid the increase of the global temperature more than 1.5 degree, so by 2030, the emissions should be reduced below 45% of the 2010 emission. And then by 2050, the emissions should reach balance. It means that we need to reach the zero emission. So the sequestration and emissions should be balanced. And in this case, all the nation or parties who actually fall under the UNFCCC parties has submitted the NDC, we call it National Determined Contribution, which commit to reduce the emission to a certain level. In this case, Indonesia has targeted to reduce its emission by 29% in 2030. And then in long-term strategy toward net zero emission, so Indonesia might reach the net zero emission by 2060, not 2050, because for developing nation, we still have a flexibility up to 2070. So Indonesia in this case, try to meet that net zero emission by 2060. So this is actually in the long-term strategy of Indonesia. So we submit a number of emission pathway in our development. So first scenario is, we call it carbon policy scenarios. And the second one is low carbon scenario, which is compatible with Paris. So actually the carbon policy scenarios, it is actually analog to this NDC. NDC actually now current policy, but NDC, as everyone knows, is only up to 2030. But we extend that current policy to the future. If there's no change in the current policy, it means that Indonesia might not be able to reduce the emissions. It's going to continue to the emission to increase to the future. So this is also a big challenge for all nations. The parties in the meeting last year in Glasgow actually agreed that all parties also need to increase the ambition for reducing the emission. Their emissions, so every party have also to submit the revised NDC in order to increase the emission. So in many countries, as we know, that actually the main source of emissions basically come from energy. And some countries like in ASEAN probably come from also from land use change and forestry. In this case, Indonesia actually contribution of land use change and forestry to national emission are very high. But in the context of energy, many nations also still rely on coal, which is also main source of the emission. And these are the target, the condition in the world that should happen in 2050 in order to reach 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius. So you can see as the solid line actually the path, the use of coal for producing energy, while the dot line is 2 degrees. So actually we have to, if you can see here, by 2045, actually we have to, the use of coal should be passing out. So there is no country can use the coal anymore. So we should convert it to renewable energy. Again, this is a challenge for innovation, especially on the use of renewable energy. And I think the research on this are very important. How we can make low cost, low carbon technology is also a challenge for countries. So in the context of Indonesia, this is actually the transformation that has been made. So you can see here that coal phase down is going to be implemented by replacing the coal by gas. And then the remaining coal that we use needs to be combined with carbon capture storage technology. And also the costs the investment are very high. The costs are very high also for the CCS. And I think in the future, how we can also make this technology a very low cost. Also increase the share of renewable energy. In terms of transportation, so there is a shifting to mass transportation, also increase the biofuel and electric vehicle. While the industry, where actually most of the energy is still substituted by coal for producing the energy, and I think in the future, industry is not allowed to use coal anymore for the energy substitution, so need to replace by gases and also by biomass. Including the building, also electrification of end use and efficiency measure is also one of critical regulation that has been implemented now. And then the power sector policy, you can see here also the based on the regulation that has been issued by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, which is amending the Energy Ministry Regulation number 4/2020, where actually in order to attract the investment for renewable power, there will be some incentives going to be provided for that. And I think, and by having this kind of policies, we expect that in period of 2021 to 2030, so renewable energy and power generation will reach or increase to 40% by 2030. And also in early June this year, the electricity state company, PLN we call it, announced a bold target to reach carbon neutral in 2060, which is alternative to scenario from PLN. So this is the alternative scenario from PLN. It means actually the power sector, especially for the power, so the complete coal phase will happen in 2056, but the retirement of the coal power will start in 2030. So this also again face a big challenge for country like Indonesia, many countries, India, also China, Australia. We still rely and have abundance of coal resources now. So it will become a stranded asset. I think also might also have some economic implication on that. And then in context of forest and land use, Indonesia is put a very ambitious mission. It's in which actually we are going to switch the status of this sector in terms of emission at present time and become a net thing in 2030. So also this become a very big challenge for Indonesia. And I think most of the emission reduction is going to be done through reducing the emission from pit fire and also emission from pit decomposition, because these two sources of emission is the main source of emission from this sector. And of course, increasing the use of unproductive land for rehabilitation, avoiding the deforestation, increasing the productivity, or reducing food loss and food waste is also one of the way how we can reduce the demand for land to the future, will also have impact on reducing the deforestation. Some policies that are already in place, actually government also issue a moratorium for forest and peatlands, so there is no more use of intact forest or natural forest for agriculture and also for other development activities. So we are trying to conserve the remaining forest that we have. But of course, again, this is not easy because there are many still an illegal use of forested land in many places, and I think this is also a challenge. So one of the approach introducing a social forestry is also one of the policies that has been implemented by government Indonesia. In addition to that, the multi-business scheme for forest concession is also one of the innovative policy. So in the past, actually one concession only have one permit. In the past, it's only just one permit for logging, only for wood. But nowadays, one permit can be used for any business activities, including also the environmental services, ecotourism, or non-timber forest product. With one policy, they also can collaborate with community in managing that concession. We call it a forest partnership program, which is under social forestry. And also the implementation of mandatory certification for sustainable forest management, including also sustainable palm oil. So of course, we also understand we have to change. In the case of Indonesia, we know that many of Indonesian trade partner countries already provide a signal for future investment priority, because all the countries like China, USA, Japan, EU, South Korea, Australia, and others actually access the market for Indonesian export commodities, almost about 33.7%. So all these countries actually commit to meet net zero emission by 2060 and 2050, mostly in 2050. So what does that mean? If Indonesia still rely on coal in industrial activities and also from agriculture product, also causing increase of the greenhouse gas emission, so we also have a problem for Indonesia to export the commodities. This one also the non-tariff barrier for Indonesia export in the future. So I think we need also to consider that very carefully also for other nations. So in the context of this international cooperative scheme for supporting NDC and increasing the ambition under the Paris Agreement has been set up and defined in the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. So there are three articles mentioning how actually each party and countries can really increase the ambition, also help to meet the NDC target. One is Article 6.2, we call it guidance on cooperative approach. This also provides a mechanism how each country can transfer their mitigation outcome. In the case, for example, one country have reached significant emission reduction in their NDC. So part of their emission reduction can be transferred to another country in order to support them to meet their NDC target, but they also can transfer some funding to the country who make a cooperation on that. But of course, this also might have some counterproductive effect on that. But in the context of Indonesia, this can be done if or only if the target of NDC has been achieved. And then in the Article 6.2, we call it market mechanism. This is also for business to business, for example, to create also mitigation project. And there is also a transfer of credit and also payment provided by each entity, depending who actually make agreement on the trading. This also arranged regulate under Article 6.2. 6.4, sorry, and then Article 6.8, active work program. It is non-market mechanism. It is also a cooperation on a synergic instrument, especially in providing climate finance for adaptation and mitigation. So these are actually the instrument that has been set up at international and being agreed. And I think how actually the country respond into this. So in the context of Indonesia, has also issued presidential regulation number 98, 2020, we call it carbon pricing for supporting NDC. So you can see here in the scheme, actually, how actually this regulation can allow for trading of emission across entity in the country. So through this presidential regulation, we create a domestic carbon trading. So some of the business entities or industries are going to apply an emission cap. So it means that they cannot emit more than a cap. So by having this kind of rule, so might create a carbon trading at domestic level. And also, we also allow for sector, for example, for the number one, we call it emission trade. It is based on entity to entity, where also for subsector who actually implement a very number of mitigation activities under NDC as part of the effort to achieve the NDC target, if they can really reduce the emission below the target, and then they call the subsector can also trade the emission to other subsectors. So this regulation has been set up. But again, in terms of trading for international, so there is also some requirement that has been implemented, that's going to be forced. So the transfer of carbon credit internationally is only happen or is allowed in the case the NDC target has been achieved, then that's allowed to transfer the credit. So in this case, Indonesia, the government of Indonesia already set up as infrastructure for that. There is a national registry system where all the carbon credit that has been issued or the emission reduction achieved need to be registered all into a system. So by having this kind of systems, you also avoid the double counting, double payment, and double claim as well. So this actually part of the policies that has been in place in Indonesia. But considering the time, I say I would just to end my presentation here. So it's very lovely if we can have further discussion. So thank you very much, Chair. So I would like to end my presentation now.
All right, thank you, Professor Rizaldi, for a very interesting presentation about the carbon pricing policy for supporting the climate change. And I'm very much interested in this topic actually. So I've done some study on it previously. So before I ask few questions, definitely I have few inquiries about this kind of carbon pricing policy. I would like to know whether the audience have any questions before any question from the audience. You can either turn on your mic or even definitely you can write it up in the chat box if you have any questions. Do you have any? Or should I start first? Okay, let me start first. Let me start first. Okay, Prof. Rizaldi. In the countries, the developed countries like the European Union, all right, they are introducing this, what they call it is a carbon emission allowances, whereby the industries are being instructed that they are allowed to emit a certain amount of carbon trading. So if they exceed the limit, they need to buy. They need to buy the carbon emission allowances from other companies. But unfortunately, in Malaysia or even in Indonesia, like we are still new about this carbon trading allowances. So, what is your comment on that? Because for me, I think by having to introduce this limitation for the industries on how much amount of carbon that they can emit, definitely will reduce the carbon emission. That's my first thing that I want to discuss with you. Yeah, it is yours, Prof. What is your comment?
So thank you for the question. I think that's actually what in Indonesia we call it cap. So there is an emission cap. So it means that actually they allow to emit the emission to up to a cap. So if it is beyond the cap, then they have to offset that back to the cap. So it means that create kind of trading. So because they have to purchase and buy a carbon credit from other entities who actually the emissions still not beyond the cap. Or so the cap is similar to allowance. Is allowance emission allowance? What are the allowable emission from any entities? But in the context of Indonesia, we provide there are two. One is NDC because subsector have a mandatory to reduce the emission. Whether it is power, for example, PLN, there is also cap being applied to PLN. We call it subsector. It's also a mandatory to reduce the emission. All right. So they implement the various of activities from different type of activities, whether it is using the clean coal technology or employ more renewable energy. So when they can reduce the emission beyond the target of NDC, so the surplus can be traded. So by trading this, actually they can also get revenue. They can make use of that funding for employing more renewable technology, for example. But for entity business to business, is also going to be, they can also propose what are the cap, the emission cap. It's also depending what are the status of the emission, because Indonesia also now mandated by the regulation, all entities have to report the greenhouse gas emission status.
Correct.
So it's mean because it is very important to understand what are the greenhouse gas emission status for any business entity. Is this going to be to use that one as a consideration how to cap is going to be defined by the government. So the cap is come from the government, but the entity can propose. But there is kind of evaluation made by national commission for that, how to define the cap for different business entities. And this can create also a trading among the entities, among business entities. But they can do also offset in the case of, for example, I don't have any target to reduce the emission, and I would like to create kind of carbon offset project in some other location, for example, and then I can produce a credit for that, and I can also sell this credit to entities who have mandatory to reduce the emission below a cap, or the same to a cap, but during that time the emission is still beyond the allowance, and they can also purchase the carbon credit come from the carbon offset project implemented by others. So this create a various kind of mechanism for everyone who can trading the carbon in the countries.
But at this moment, the rules and regulation are not being fully implemented yet. It is still in the infant stage, should I say. It's a very at infant stage, whereby I think we can learn something from the European Union, how they introduce these carbon emission allowances for the industries especially. All right. So I have, Prof. Rizadi, I have a question in the chat box. It is from Mr. Rio Kevin. Rio Kevin. As Professor Rizaldi mentioned, Indonesia has made a progressive transformation in mitigating the climate change sector policies. In 2020, the Indonesian Climate Change Performance Index was in the 24th position. Meanwhile, Norway consistently ranked high in terms of its ability to cope with the climate change. Are there any technical things in Norway that can be applied in Indonesia? So I do not know. Is there any secrets that they are doing in such a way that they can use this carbon emission? I wonder also. What is your comment, Prof?
Yeah, of course, there is always I think technology that can be transferred to any countries for supporting the countries to reduce the emission. I think the transfer technology is one also the big issues that we have now, because we know that the technology is not free. There are some developed countries produce very low carbon technologies. But normally it is developed by private. So private doesn't want to just transfer it just like that. So I think that's why it is not easy, to do. And I think this kind of issues, technology transfer is one of the tough negotiation that has been faced for many years. And I think in the future, this become very big challenge. And I think the creation of Article 6 in the Paris Agreement, and I think to offer these opportunities. Yeah. So there is a transfer technology like the mechanism created by Japan, for example, through joint crediting mechanism. So joint crediting mechanism is kind of mechanism where Japan provide a technology, low carbon technology to developing countries. And then the reduction of the emission can be transferred partly to Japan. But the country is only, say, for example, if I have to replace the current technology with a new one, so I have an additional cost about 40, for example. And then this new technology is being transferred. And then the additional investment that required for the implementing low carbon technology will be converted into carbon unit equivalent, for example. But again, how much actually carbon credit can be transferred is subject to negotiation again. So the country can create kind of policy in which the joint crediting mechanism is only allowed if the type of activities is provide a technology which is the better technology than the best available technology in the countries. So what does that mean? So the joint crediting mechanism is only allowed for a corporation where the technology being transferred is better than the best available technology in the country. By doing this kind of policy, will accelerate the transfer of better technology to the developing countries. Not only provide, in the past we know that developing countries kind of like is dumping the post technology from the developed countries, but it should not be happen anymore in the future.
All right. Before I go for the next question by Sharul Islam, I would like to extend actually this question. You know, in the what we call a developed country, they are using a lot more of renewable energy. We can see a lot of wind turbine, even wave generator that can generate electricity and so on. But in Malaysia, in Indonesia, we are still depending, especially for Malaysia, we are still depending on gas to generate electricity. Not much as coal. We are depending mostly on gas to generate our electricity. All right. So, but still, we are still depending on this kind of orthodox energy generation. So, as you know, in Malaysia and Indonesia, we have abundance of solar, so that we does not use it. I wonder why this solar technology is not yet so popular to generate electricity, whereby in the European countries they does not have solar, but they have wind, of course, wind turbine, and all sort of renewable energy technology are being popularized in the European countries or in the developed countries. But why not here? Is it because of the cost? Is it because of the, I don't know, the allowances or the benefits to given by our government to the people who produce the energy for themselves? What is your comment, bro?
Yeah, I think I'm not an energy person, but I know some of the issues related to the most of the renewable energy, but the stability of the producing of the energy, because of course the solar is not continuous, it is not stable. So it means the stability of the lining system is also a problem. I think for implementing huge solar panel in country. This one, and also the storage system. The storage system, how to store a lot of energy.
Storage system.
And then another one also, of course, the land. Land also might be needed for developing the panel, the solar panel. It also require a big land for that. But of course, for the last issue that I just mentioned, I think it might not so much problematic. But now, for example, we are going to use the lake. So the lake. There are a number of water storage, for instance, dam, for example, so we can use that one as
hydro
area for solar panel.
You mean you're using hydro electricity?
No, not hydro. The solar panel. The solar panel.
Okay.
For the solar panel, we require land. Of course, we know we can use the water body, lake or dam or a reservoir. So we can avoid the use or converting the forest, for example.
Deforestation issues. I've seen that Pak Henry Setiadi is raising up his hand. Maybe Pak Henry would like to comment or something on that before I go to Mr. Sharul Islam question.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. Rizal and Prof. Rizaldi for the explanation. Actually, I'm quite new in this carbon emission trading. May I know that is it kind of stock trading? Is it available for the retail individual for the participating for the trading, or entity to entity only, Professor?
Yeah, actually, if the system is already in place, we know that in the case of Indonesia, the presidential regulations already issued, but now the drafting of the derivative regulation for that, we call it the Rancangan Peraturan Menteri Lingkungan Hidup for carbon pricing. It is in the process, so we expect this regulation will provide more guidance how actually this carbon trading are going to be implemented. And there is also another regulation focusing on the forest sector, forest and land use, because Indonesia also have big potential for reducing emission from forest and land use. So there will be a separate regulation on that, as well as a derivative regulation of the presidential regulation number 98. So in this regulation and this policy, so with having the registry system, so actually all the emission reduction can be converted into a carbon unit. So there is a process. There is a process for processing a carbon unit. So any emission reduction that has been produced for any entities can register their activities, and then will be verified by the national team for verification, but can also by the independent verificator. But once when you have a carbon unit, and then it's become like a commodity, so you can sell it, and you can also put that in the share market, for example. So this also is now being discussed also. It'll be very interesting for you to get kind of vision on this, because in the implementation of policy and regulation, there is need research for supporting how the implementation can be effective.
I hope.
I see. Okay, so it's kind of a stock trading, yeah. So will be available for the public.
Yeah, that's right.
I see. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Rizaldi, Professor Farizal. Thank you.
Good question. So that's good. The discussion is heating up again and again. So that's good, Professor Rizaldi, because everybody are interested about this carbon emission actually. So come back to the question from because I need to convey this question because I promised to convey this question from Mr. Sharul Islam. About the construction sector. Construction sector is one of the contributor. Not just construction sector a lot of other sectors like the plantation, all right? Okay, even the transportation, all right? So he is asking about the Indonesian government's initiative. I think you have mentioned this one in your slide. So if you want to extend further on it, Prof?
On the construction.
Yeah, what is the initiative of the Indonesian government to solve this problem? Because of these industries are contributing a lot of this carbon emission and so on. So I think you have put it somewhere in your slide. I can't remember.
Yeah, actually, that's why, as I mentioned before, I think all entities need to report their greenhouse gas emissions. So life cycle analysis is become mandatory later on. So, for example, now the government also already issued also one of the presidential instruction for sustainable palm oil, just for example. For the industry who produce the CPO need to provide the greenhouse gas inventory, like life cycle analysis, so they will know which source of the emission come from the factory or from the industry, or for any construction companies, for example. And then they can see where actually the emission reduction can be done. So it means that they need also to look at what are the main source of the emission come from the construction companies, for example, and then what are the effort that can be done. But of course, it's not very easy, especially if the construction company.
So how do they report this one, Prof? How do they report on I'm building a house. I'm building a house actually. I'm building a house. But I do not know why you say that by building a house, I'm emitting carbon emission. What is how can they simply report that one?
That could be a double counting. For example, if you construct your house, of course, you might need to use cement, all right?
Yes, of course.
With producing cement also, there is an emission because you use
of course.
So you don't need to calculate that because it'll be captured in subsector. So if we are dealing with one of construction, I just built a house, for example. So I will look at what are the materials that we use.
Yes, that's the correct.
What are the transportation? If we buy materials from far away, and then using say for example, inefficient car or truck from far away, so the emission will also very high. So we know that actually kind of calculating the carbon footprint. So what actually the carbon that has been produced for any activities that we implement. But I think the question related to construction, we look at in terms of subsector. In the subsector of construction, for example, so we can see and calculate what actually the source of emission come from the construction subsector, what are the source, the main source of the emission for this construction subsector. By doing that, actually we know what actually the main source of the emission, and then we can identify what type of mitigation option that can be done, what type of technologies that we need for that. So that's the common procedure
that's correct. So I would like to add up a bit more. What Professor Rizaldi mentioned just now is correct. It is not the action of building the house is emitting the carbon emission. It is the source of having to use the material, the transportation, generating the energy, electricity if they are using electricity, all right, the use of cements and so on. Are the one that we calculate on how much carbon emission to produce a cement, for example, that can be calculated as the carbon emission sources. I can 100% agree on that, Prof. And then there is one also question from Chitra Ravati. This one is a bit controversial, asking about the Russia-Ukraine crisis, supply of the gas world distributed affected the energy prices and supply. How the industry will be able to follow the government regulation in this situation? Please share your opinion. I do not know. How can the government share?
Yeah, it's very hard because producing technology with low emission is needed time. And of course, the crisis will happen in a particular time. It's not continued forever. So it's been in such situation, probably they can kind of exception in policy implementation could be done that way. Well, of course, depending each countries, of course. But we know that in the Russia-Ukraine crisis, for example, there are the UK, for example, back into coal. But then, so this, that's reality. That's happened because they need energy for living. They cannot just.
That's correct.
So sometimes, sometimes we have to sacrifice the environmental issue in this case. But of course, we hope that this kind of crisis will not happen forever. It's only just happened in particular time. But of course, the policy should be in place to ensure that actually all nations are really go into on track for meeting the net zero emission by the mid of the century. So it's not easy to answer, but I think that's my response for this time.
There is one another thing that I'm interested in on the carbon capture storage, CCS, carbon capture storage. All right. Maybe some of our participants would like to know what is the carbon capture storage actually. I think we still need land to have this some kind of a carbon capture storage system. So maybe Prof. Rizaldi can give us a bit of insight. What is the definition of carbon capture storage system itself?
Yeah, carbon capture storage actually capture the emissions come from the oil companies in particular. So they injected the greenhouse gas back into the earth.
Yeah.
So normally, so it's actually like oil wells, which are already old. We have Indonesia quite a lot of that can be used for injecting the carbon back into the earth. So that's actually the carbon capture storage. So we capture the carbon and then put it back into the
earth. So we still need lands on it. Or we are using the old wells.
The old wells, yes. The old wells.
So that's a new technology, I think. So maybe everybody knows now what is the carbon capture storage technology. By having to capture back the carbon emission, putting back it into a certain kind of a capsule or a tank or a space or storage area, which is being underneath the earth, for example. So that's the way it is. So there is one, I hope will be the last question from Bumia Sarah Anggoro. What are the things that can support the achievement of Indonesian emission pathway, and what can hinder the achievement of Indonesian emission pathway? So what is your opinion on that, Prof? Because you are talking about Indonesia right now. you are not talking about Malaysia. We have our own strategy. So
actually, there are many innovative, like fiscal policy. I just mentioned in one slide, but I didn't explain that a bit detail because I just considering the time. For example, of course, Indonesia in this context, for example, create kind of public service unit, or we call it BLU. These public service units actually manage a fund, come from international, come from domestic also, where this fund can be accessed by anyone. to the private, local government, communities for supporting the climate action. Now, of course, they need to create a proposal for that. Of course, this actually allow for anyone to get additional fund through this mechanism, through these agencies. So this one of the innovative policies that Indonesia has done. So you can see Indonesian Environmental Fund. So you just Googling Indonesian Environmental Fund, you can see many of information there.
Okay, all right.
That's only one of them. So
one of them lah.
There's also possibility, for example, if transfer of fiscal among the province, for example.
Okay.
So, for example, now Jakarta, many cities already declared to the global network, like city network, C40. There are many city network already announced that they would like to achieve net zero emission by 2050. So they also have an ambition to reduce the emission. They, for example, Jakarta have a commitment to reduce the emission by 35% by 2030. If they cannot reach that one, so
they have signed it. They have signed it.
Yes, they have signed it. The government have signed. But still not sure. But the way for example, to allow the Jakarta to meet that, they can transfer some finance to province. They may have a large land that can be reforested, for example, or can support the community to establish agroforestry, for example. But should be G2G, but how the money is going to fund to manage, and should might also need to be investigated. How this system can also be implemented to support the mitigation action between provinces. So there are many good innovation or creative thinking that can be done, and probably research need to be done for that. I think we are all very interested in doing this kind of research, I think.
So many people are very are listening well to your lecture, to your keynote speech, Professor Rizaldi. Congratulations from me. But I need to take up these questions. Another one question from Professor Diki. Professor Diki Indramat, I do not know why.
The time is, I don't know, the second speaker might not have time.
No, it's okay. So. The second speaker is my vice chancellor. I can arrange that one because it is just a video presentation. So it will be okay. It will be okay. I can manage on that. Don't worry about the time. So about Professor Prof Diki, he is asking, with the current energy resource usage, many people are expected to face fuel poverty. When a household has to spend a high proportion of its income on energy bills, of course, all right? While the cost of many renewable technology continues to fall over the year on year, as we predict the carbon emission trade will accelerate the adoption of renewable energy in all sectors, of course. Furthermore, the increasing adoption of clean energy will driven down the cost of electricity from new renewable power plants. But the question is very simple at the end. When do you expect the Asian and Indonesian, or even Malaysia particularly, could implement the new energy sources? He is asking when. What is your prediction? You're telling me just now in 2045 we are not using any more the coal. That's
for Indonesia. As I said, we still rely on coal up to 2056. We start to retire all the coal power plant in 2030 because we cannot shut down. The power plant is already in operation. I think no one want to just close down. So for up to 2030 in the context of Indonesia, we still rely on the coal, but after 2030 we start to retire the power plant retirement. So we call it early retirement. So it doesn't have to close until the end of the period of the power plant, but can be retired early. All right. And then so there is no new coal power plants going to be established after 2030. All right.
Okay.
Then we just reduce it.
That's a very bold move.
But the challenge is actually for renewable energy. Now, actually, the cost for renewable is still expensive, still more expensive than the coal. Coal is the cheapest. All right.
Of course.
There is also hydrogen. Hydrogen also is still expensive. It is more expensive, but it is quite potential for the mitigation. But I think the policies need, to change in terms of providing subsidy for the fossil fuel based energy, converts the subsidy to renewable. Then by time when the technology become more cost efficient and the cost of renewable energy become less and less, and then the subsidy can be taken down. So by doing this, I think the acceleration of the employing the renewable energy will happen. Otherwise, very hard.
So we do have a time frame, we do have a time frame like Prof. Rizaldi mentioned just now. By it is a very bold move to mention that Indonesian are not going to create new coal plant, electricity energy generation by coal plant anymore by 2030. That one is a very bold move, a very, very bold move. So it is very interesting. It is Prof. Diki say thank you to Prof. Rizaldi. He can always ask you at home. But okay, it is very interesting. Everybody knows now. It is very important to summarize up, because I think we will start by 10:15 or a bit more less than that. To summarize up, I think Prof. Rizaldi, would you like to give 1 or 2 minutes summary of what we have discussed just now before we stop this session?
Yeah, because we all are scientific community, I think it is challenge for us how we can really solve these issues. It's big issues, and I think we need also to revisit our research grant strategy for the future, especially for our students, how we can really contribute to this big challenge. I think that's my message.
So as I can mention, we need to do more research on this, and then definitely everybody knows that this carbon emission is very, very sensitive issue that we need to mitigate, or we need to ensure that we can solve this problem. Thank you very much, Prof. Rizaldi boy, for your very interesting and insightful talk, keynote speech. I'm very much interested with that, with the particular topic, and I do believe that all the audience are very, very interested or do understand on what you have mentioned about this carbon emission. So maybe we can give Prof. Rizaldi applause virtually. So, so before we stop, I was asked to take a photo with Prof. Rizaldi. Maybe the committee could assist me on taking a photo. All right. So, anybody would like to volunteer? Let me do it. Okay. If nobody, then I will take the photo by myself. Okay.
I'll help you,
Okay.
Farizal.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, can everybody open their video? That's right.
Camera. Okay.
Okay, we have 4 slides here.
All right.
Okay, everybody look at your device camera.
Okay.
I'll take first slide, 1, 2, and 3. Second slide, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the third slide, 1, 2, and 3. And fourth, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, cantik Pak Andre, cantik. Thank you very much. Very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Rizaldi. Again, thank you.
Saya permission, so apologize that I cannot continue to attend this seminar. So I have to
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with the first keynote speaker. Very interesting topic from Prof. Rizaldi on the carbon pricing policy. And then I think you are very much energized with his talk. So we should take a break. We should take a break before we go for the next speaker. So in order to take a break, I will show you the University Utara Malaysia University in a Green Forest video, about 3 minutes. It is a 3 minutes break. So hopefully by that time, everybody will wake up back. All right, so 3 minutes video before we go for the next keynote speaker. All right, so this is University Utara Malaysia. The home for the next speaker is the Vice Chancellor for this university. So University Utara Malaysia, I present to you the University in the Green Forest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a University Utara Malaysia, a very my home university at this moment, far north of Peninsula Malaysia. So I hope you have enjoyed the 3 minutes video on the University Utara Malaysia. So all right, so now let's go to the next section, the next keynote speaker. The next keynote speaker, unfortunately, is unable to present his paper live, so we have prepared a video on it. But before that, I would like to introduce to you our speaker. Professor Dr. Haim Hilman Abdullah. I will share this one with you. Hold on. Okay. Okay, guys. So everybody can see it, eh? Everybody can see it? Clear?
Yes, this is
All right. Okay. All right. So basically, our next speaker is Professor Dr. Haim Hilman Abdullah. He's currently the rector for University Utara Malaysia. All right, and he got his PhD from the University of Utara Malaysia. All right, in 2010. First degree from University of Portsmouth, United Kingdom, and master degree S2 also in Portsmouth. Okay, his area of expertise is in strategic management, scenario planning, leadership, and also entrepreneurship. And what else here? I can see that leadership training, research, total research 27, total grant research received. He's actively doing his research with the total grant about 3.8 million ringgit Malaysia. And external examiner, publication, work experience. Been working with the University Utara Malaysia at least for 20 years. And now he's the Vice Chancellor or Rector for University Utara Malaysia. And publication, you can see he's published about 311 publications. 67 of them are Scopus Index articles, all right? And number of PhD students under his supervision is 17. Master student is 16. So that's a brief introduction about Professor Dr. Haim Hilman Abdullah, currently the Vice Chancellor for University Utara Malaysia. And now I'm going to bring you with I will show you the recorded video. He do apologize. He sincerely apologized for not being able to present the paper live because he got one meeting, one important urgent meeting in the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia today. He should already started his meeting now actually. All right, so I will just play the video and let's have a look on his video presenting on the smart aquaculture technology. So let's enjoy.
The Honorable Rector of IPB University, Professor Dr. Arif Satria, Acting Dean, School of Business, IPB, Dr. Idran Fahmi, Keynote Speaker, Professor Dr. Rizaldi Bor from IPB University, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Today, it is both my honor and privilege to be here in this Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022. Agriculture sector has become the crucial sector in the world due to food security supply, concerns in adaptation approaches to food security issues, and policy feedback to global change, as well as opportunities for handling water quota, land change, food trade, port harvest food processing, and food charges and safety are crucial to be observed. Then, due to the effect of the climate change, climate smart agriculture (CSA) approach is introduced to adapt and mitigate the climate change to ensure the sustainability of the agriculture sector. Many evidences are showing the world climate is changing and the changes will have an enormous impact on people, ecosystem, and energy use. Climate change will affect all 4 dimensions of food security, food availability, food accessibility, food utilization, and food system stability. It will have an impact on human health, livelihood assets, food productions and distribution channels, as well as changing purchasing power and market flows. Its impact will be both short-term, resulting from more frequent and more intense extreme weather events, and long-term, caused by changing temperatures and precipitation patterns. The more greenhouse gases, GHGs, the more heat is trapped in the lower atmosphere, heating the surface of our planet. More heat means more water vapor, a greenhouse gas. This means the hotter it is, the more water vapor is generated, and that translates into more heat waves and droughts. It also means more rain, heavier rain, and more floods. More heat means more energy that energizes the planet's water cycle, so more torrential rains, severe storms, and cyclones. Tropospheric ozone increases with global warming is toxic to green plants, inhibiting photosynthesis. Research has indicated that this effect could be very large as temperature increase. Changing climate pattern will have an important implication for water availability. Across the globe, sea levels could rise rapidly with accelerated ice sheet disintegration. The global crop availability is in decline as a result of population growth, soil degradation, soil losses, shrinking water resources, as well as rising temperatures that are leading to falling land productivity. Loss of agri-biodiversity is associated with a range of causal factors, including destructions and fragmentations of habitats, and the increasing use land for non-agriculture purposes, emissions, and agriculture intensifications. On farms, climate change is reducing crops yields, the nutritional quality of major cereals, and lowering livestock productivity. Substantial investment in adaptation will be required to maintain current yields and to achieve productions and food quality increases to meet demand. Under these conditions, the poorest people who already use most of their income on food sacrifice additional income and other assets to meet their nutritional requirement or resort to poor coping strategies. Nutrition is likely to be affected by climate change through related impacts on food security, dietary diversity, care practices, and health. Animal agriculture and meat production consumptions are major contributors to climate change. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that livestock production is responsible for 18% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Cow manure contains nitrous oxide and methane, the latter being one of the most potent greenhouse gases due to its outsized ability to absorb heat. Land use for any type of agriculture like livestock or crops meant for people or animal is brought under cultivations by clearing forests and grasslands, which are carbon sinks due to their abilities to absorb carbon. Currently, forests consume roughly a quarter all anthropogenic CO2, yet the more forests are slashed and burned to make way for pastoral land and monocrops. The less carbon will be absorbed, resulting in accelerated climate change. Pesticides not only affect our health and the environment, but they also play a part, both directly and indirectly, in climate change. Synthetic pesticides disrupt the complex web of life in soils and impact on soil fertility. Soil organisms are critical to building soil organic matter and recycling nutrients, and this loss of soil biological activity reduces the soil's ability to sequester carbon. Soil is more of largest carbon sinks. However, over 30% of soils worldwide are degraded by unsustainable land management. Pesticides also cause further emissions through their effects on soil. Researchers in the USA have shown that widely used soil fumigants such as chlorofluorine can increase soil N2O emissions sevenfold. Bhopal 2021. Aquaculture farms species are situated in a range of different sites depending on the requirement of the species and the environment. The most commonly used fish enclosure is a pond and tanks, and net cages are also widely used. Good water quality inside in the enclosure is essential to the health of the animals farmed, and poor water quality may lead to increased GHG emissions as excess nutrients are lost from the system and are broken down. Similarly, poor feed quality may reduce fish performance and increase GHG emissions. As human beings who explore natural resources and depend on it to sustain life, we must be responsible to ensure the sustainability of the resources and not to make any harm for future generations. Malaysia's GDP expanded further 5.0% as compared to 3.6% in the previous quarter. The agriculture sector rose marginally 0.2% as compared to 2.8% in the preceding quarter. The performance was influenced by the oil palm, fishing and livestock subsector, which grew 3.9%, quarter 4 2021, 4.8%, 3.5%, quarter 4 2021 was minus 0.5%, and 1.5% in quarter 4 2021 was 0.2%, respectively. Supply of 8 fruits in 2020 was sufficient to fulfill the local demands with SSR more than 100%. Papaya recorded the highest SSR at 156%, followed by watermelon 139.4% and starfruit 117%. 7 types of selected vegetables have adequate supply for domestic needs, namely tomato with 123.7%, lettuce 114%, brinjal 112.3%, and cucumber 112.1%. SSR for chicken, duck eggs is the only item in livestock category that exceeds 100% at 113.5%. Meanwhile, for fisheries, tuna SSR stood at 108.1% and shrimp at 101.7%. Malaysia hopes to reduce the intensity of greenhouse gas GHG emissions across the economy by 45% based on the gross domestic product GDP in 2030. The Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said to be highlighted in the national statements in the country aspirations to achieve net zero GHG emissions as early as 2050. He also stressed that the climate change and green technology agenda is a national priority under the present government, and the commitment is contained in the third theme of the 12 Malaysia Plan to spur sustainability. The alignment of sustainable development goals and national development is realized through a mapping exercise, which begins with the 11 Malaysia Plan 2016-2020, the midterm review of 11 Malaysia Plan 2008-2020, and subsequently with the 12 Malaysia Plan 2021 to 2025 and the 13 Malaysia Plan from 2026 to 2030. Agriculture must become climate smart to adapt and mitigate with the climate change. Climate change is a challenge to our food system, but it's also an opportunity for us to innovate and adapt. We must work together to become climate smarter and to support necessary technical policy and investment solutions that our farmers need. The evidence base is made up of the current and projected effects of climate change in a country, identifying key vulnerabilities in the agricultural sector and food security. Agriculture and the identification of effective adaptations options. It includes estimates for the potential reduction in greenhouse gas emission or increased carbon sequestrations generated by adaptation strategies, informations on cause and barriers to the adoptions of different practices, issues related to the sustainability of production systems, and the required policy and institutional responses to overcome them. The approach supports the development of relevant policy, plans, investments, and coordination across processes and institutions responsible for agriculture, climate change, food security, and land use. Strong local institutions to empower, enable, and motivate farmers are essential. In some cases, efforts also need to be made in building capacity of national policymakers to participate in international policy on climate change and agriculture and reinforce their engagement with local government authorities. Innovative financing mechanisms that link and blend climate and agriculture finance and investment from public and private sectors are key means of implementing CSA. New climate financing instruments such as the Green Climate Fund are currently under development and could be a way of spurring sustainable agriculture development. Strong and all-encompassing national appropriate mitigation actions, NAMA, and National Adaptation Plans, NAPs, are key national policy instruments important in creating link to national and international sources of finance. National sector budgets and order will continue to be the main sources of funding. Climate integration into sector planning and budgeting is therefore a prerequisite for successfully addressing climate change. Agriculture is the main industry in Cameron Highlands, followed by tourism. Growing and selling vegetables, fruit, and flowers has become lucrative trades, which has led to an exponential growth of agriculture activities in the forest reserve of Pahang. The escalated farming has brought along unsustainable use of chemicals such as pesticide and chemical fertilizers, which cause serious pollution of land and water. To curb this problem, Pesticide Action Network Asia Pacific, PANAP, with the help of scientists, extensions officers, and experts in the field of agriculture, began to reach out to farmers through a structured, informative, and demonstrative program. A farmer field school biocontrol agents as a nature-friendly farming technique is being taught to conventional farmers to suppress pest population in Cameron Highlands and arrest chemical pollution to land and water. In formulating NAP 2.0, MAFI wants to tackle several global and domestic challenges which affect food supply in order to evaluate pressing issues and to come out with solutions. Among the issues are the rising prices of agriculture's input, climate change in limited resources, and the competing uses of commodities for biofuel. Due to climate change, Malaysia receives more excessive of rainfall and sometimes become drought. The impact of climate change on paddy yield is foreseen to widen the gap of local supply and demand. Increasing temperature has been shown to be more damaging to paddy yield than rainfall variation. 1% increase in temperature could result in 3.44% drop in current paddy yield, while a 1% increase in rainfall could cut current paddy yield by 0.12%. Hence, adaptations of paddy farmers for the impacts of climate change is crucial, and this can be achieved with technology advancements in agriculture practices, as well as research and development of new paddy breeds, TANG 2019. Climate change has profound impacts on oil palm productions, and these impacts including rising temperature, water stress, infestations of pests and diseases, yield educations, and decline in revenue, Sakra et al. 2020. Increase in temperature by 2 Celsius could result in 30% shortfall in oil palm yield, Patterson and Lima 2018. Besides, increment in temperature accelerates the rate of soil water evaporations, thus making the soil drier and worsening the impact of water scarcity on oil palm. Some farmers in Malaysia only started to practice SRI methods in 2010, as majority were not receptive towards the method back then, including some government agencies, as they were resistant towards organic farming practices. It is important to have good and ethical farmers who produce safe and healthy food for the people using sustainable and organic farming methods like SRI as the way forward. SRI also helps to conserve the environment, as pesticides and commercially produced fertilizers are not used. Thank you.
All right, that's the recorded video from Professor Haim Hilman Abdullah regarding the smart aquaculture. But I didn't share the slide, so I will share you the slide now, basically, and then I will just summarize it. Okay. All right. So I think everybody can see the slide, huh? Okay. Semua boleh nampak ya. All right. So basically, the climate change and climate smart approach, agriculture approach in Malaysia by Professor Haim. All right. So there are 4 things there. How climate change affect the agriculture sector, and then how does this agriculture sector contribute to the climate change, and then the Malaysia agriculture sector. And the last one is on the climate smart agriculture itself, whereby for this climate change itself, I think everybody are well aware that the climate change is the global phenomenon of a climate transformation characterized by the change in the usual climate by the planet, and they are caused by greenhouse gases emission, like what we have discussed just now with Prof. Rizaldi. So basically, this slide is a quite a lengthy slide. It is about 35 slides. So I will just keep it until the climate smart agriculture before we can open up for any question if you want to ask. Of course, if you want to ask any question, you can drop the question in the chat box. Definitely, I can't answer it at this moment, but I will convey this question to Professor Haim Hilman, and hopefully I will get back to you after maybe before the end of the day for this presentation. So just simply on the smart agriculture must be climate smart. And then one thing that he has mentioned about the agriculture, one of the technology is on the SRI, on the method of how we should plant the paddy. All right. And then it is an approach to help the people who manage agriculture system respond effectively to the climate change. So a lot more things in this slide, but I can't explain it to you because this is slide being prepared by Professor Haim Hilman Abdullah. So I will stop sharing about this slide, but you can always have it afterwards and have a read through on the slides. So before we end this session for the keynotes, we have another 10 minutes or 15 minutes more or less before we stop it at 11. Is there any question from the audience regarding any of these 2 keynote speakers that I should convey to the speakers? Anybody would like to ask any questions? If there is no questions, I think we can stop the presentation. We can stop this session for the presentation by the keynote speaker, and after this, we will go directly to our breakout room for the presenters, the participants' presentation. So, is it okay? Organizing committee, Dr. Siti, is it okay if we could stop it now and then we can go to the breakout room afterwards? Is it okay?
Yeah, I think Master of Ceremony will take care.
Okay, all right. So if that is the case, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention. Being here for the past at least 2 hours, from 8 o'clock in the morning until now almost 11. So in Indonesia, from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning. I do hope you enjoy the 2 of the keynote speakers, and I look forward to work with any of you in carbon emission research or agricultural research. Just let me know. Just approach me. You can approach Dr. Siti Jahra, or even you can approach UUM committee to connect you with me directly. So thank you very much. Have a lovely conference for today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give it back to the MC. Bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor M. Farizal Rachmi, for leading the first plenary session. And now, as a form of our appreciation, we would like to give an e-certificate to our keynote speakers and also to our moderator. Please, the first certificate is for Professor Dr. Rizaldi Bur.
Okay. Professor Rizaldi is not there. It's okay, both of them are not there. It's okay. Thank you. Nice certificate. Nice certificate.
And the next certificate is for Professor Dr. Hilman Abdullah.
Okay, I will convey that particular certificate to him directly, inshallah.
Thank you, sir. And the last one is for our moderator, Associate Professor M. Farizal Rachmi. Thank you, sir, once again for your willingness to moderate this session.
Thank you very much.
Please come here to get it.
I need to be.
Come here.
That's the thing, lah. That's the thing. When we are doing online, when we are doing everything online, so we do not know what you are doing at your home at this moment. Where are you? Or what are you doing? So we should be there. We should be physically in IPB for this year. Next year we do not know. Maybe we can do it in UUM, maybe, inshallah.
We will waiting for you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to our first parallel session. And in a few minutes, all participants will be automatically moved to breakout rooms, and this parallel session will be finished at 12 p.m. Western Indonesian time. And we will be back again to the main room for our second plenary session at 1 p.m. So for all the hosts, you may proceed all participants to the breakout room. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be transferred automatically to the breakout rooms, everybody. Is it?
Yes, the technical team will move you to the breakout room.
And also its vice chairperson from 2015 to 2017 and from 2019 to 2021, and its chairperson from 2018 to 2019. So Prof. Minjo is the part of the Inter-University Digitalization and Innovation Laboratory in Agriculture of three Viennese University, TU Wien, Vienna Institute of Technology, the Vienna University of Life Sciences, BOKU, and the Vienna University of Veterinary Medicine as a representative of TU Wien. He is the editor-in-chief of the Transactions on Large-Scale Data and Knowledge-Centered Systems of Springer. He has also been awarded the honorary doctorate from the Czech University of Technology in Prague and the honorary professorship from the University of Hugh. So I welcome Professor Minjo. So before let us listen from Professor Minjo. I give you the audience. I give you the floor. Thank you.
Bapak Ahmad Syarifuddin Abdul Latif, Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu yang terhormat, dengan apresiasi yang besar dan dengan gembira saya menerima undangan untuk keynote IPB ini. Banyak terima kasih, but I will continue in English. So, do you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yet?
Yes, we can see
Yes,
you.
Yes.
It's
okay.
on the.
So the topic I chose for this keynote is exnovation, and to ask, is there any transformation without exnovation, and especially about the role of exnovation for sustainable development. So at first I will speak about exnovation, and then my talk will just give some examples of innovative or exnovative approaches, examples, and at the end we will ask, is there any innovation without exnovation, or is innovation the same like exnovation? This is what we will discuss, I think, after my talk. So I will only give a few examples on innovative approaches and see what it is. So what is exnovation? Exnovation could be considered as the opposite of innovation. Exnovation removes or withdraws any usage system, process, practice, or technology that has been tested and validated, but is no longer effective or inconsistent with strategy. So we remove something because we have a strategy. Our strategy in this talk, or generally, will be SDG. In the actual sense of the word, however, it is more about bringing out of the world things, actions, behavior, processing, bringing it out, things which are no longer desirable for a wide variety of reasons. In sustainability research, exnovation is described as a process of exciting unsustainable infrastructures, technologies, products, and practices due to past dependencies and resistance from established interests. So puts unsustainable infrastructures, technology, products away due to the past of dependencies and resistance from established interests. Examples of this are currently still pending exnovation processes of nuclear and coal phase out, and especially coal phase out. We speak about coal phase out, but if we look to statistics, coal is still used and is even still increased. So why I chose this topic? I was inspired by a keynote at the Asia UNINET plenary some 2 weeks ago by Veena Gera, and her topic was digitalization and exnovation in regional energy transition. And that is since a long time that I hear again the term of exnovation explored in such a detail. So what Veena Gera put on the table was, if we speak about sustainable energy system transition, it requires approaches going beyond innovation and creative restriction, which assume that old products, technologies, or practices will be rendered obsolete and will disappear when innovation emerge. Will disappear. That's what if we speak about exnovation. Necessitates processes of exnovation, divestment, and niche destruction to actively push out established unsustainable structures. Pushing something out, if we have. So Robert Lehman sets out the economic and technology constraints on delivering decarbonization over the next 2 or 3 years look like this. Prevailing resistance amid energy price increases. So now let us look to phasing out coal. Do we have here any exnovation? If you look to this kind of statistics, we have still a high amount of coal used. It is even increasing over the years. We have, if we look here, the world total use of coal is increasing tremendously. And if we want that electricity generation will need to a zero emission 2014, as proposed by the International Energy Agency, then I think we don't have any innovation. We still have this kind of development. And if we look to the top 10 coal power countries in 2021, we see China with a coal record in 2021, India with a coal record in 2021, Indonesia also. Only some countries are going down here, but in total, we don't have any innovation, meaning both alternative energies and coal is still increasing. So no innovation. So in the actual sense of the word, it is more about bringing out of the word things, actions, behavior, and processing that are no longer desirable for a wide variety of reasons. This is not followed if we look to the development of coal use in our world. So let us look to another example where perhaps innovation is there. The problem of food waste. If we look to the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations Food Index report, this report estimates that around 931 million tons of food waste was generated only in 2019. A huge amount. 61% of which came from households. So this is the most important part where we can do something. 26% from food service and 13% from retail. So this suggests that 17% of the total global food production may be wasted. And if we take this 61%, 11% in the households, 5% in the food service, and 2% in retail. 931 million tons of food waste. If we look to this report, there are three key findings. Key finding number one, household per capita food waste generation is found to be broadly similar across country income groups, suggesting that action on food waste is equally relevant in high, upper middle, and lower middle income countries. So they are quite similar across different countries with different economic levels. Number two, key finding number two, and that is a very drastic key finding. The previous estimates of the FAO, on consumer food waste significantly underestimated its scale. It is even doubled. So food waste at consumer level, meaning household and food service, appears to be more than twice the previous FAO estimate. So if we look back, we see this is the most important, 11% in household, 5% in food service. So 60% of this are wasted. And if you look to the income groups between high income countries, upper middle income countries, and lower middle income countries, we can see even this kind of distribution. It is very, very high. 79 kilo per capita per year in high income countries, similar statistics for upper middle income countries, and in lower middle income countries even more in the different households. So if we want to do something, we need here some important innovation. And then now we should come to the next key finding, number 3. But to understand this, we have to distinguish food waste in the FAO report between the edible parts and the inedible parts. Edible parts are parts of food that were intended for human consumption, but cannot be used. So intended, but not used. And we have a second part, which are the inedible parts, which are components associated with food that are not intended to be consumed by humans. These are things like bones, rinds, pits, stones, etc., but which could be used. The key finding number 3 is there's insufficient data on the edible part of food waste to allow comparative analysis across country income groups. But even if inedible parts, bone, pits, eggshells, predominate in lower income countries, there's sufficient total food waste in these areas for circular approaches or other food waste diversion strategies to be important. So here we have large innovation, ex-innovation potential to think about how food waste could be reduced. If you look to the SDG number 12, so we have also SDG 12.3. By 2030, the goal is half per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels and reduce food losses along production and supply chains, including post-harvest losses. So by 2030, and these are just only some 8 years from now, half per capita global food waste should be reduced, which is, honestly speaking, quite impossible. So SDG 12.3 covers food and inedible parts that exit the supply chain and thus are lost or weighted and is tracked through the 2 indicators. We have 2 indicators. Indicator number 1, 12.3.1, is the food loss index, measures losses for key commodities in a country across the supply chain, up to but not including retail. And we have indicator 12.3.1b, the food waste index, measures food waste at retail and consumer level, households, and food service. For the United Nations, this is important because these 2 indices are monitored by different organizations. If we look to the situation in Europe, we can see that relating to households, the data of Austria, where I come from, is quite good. Only 39 kilo per capita food waste is estimated per year, which is one of the lowest in Europe. And if you look to food services, situation is a little bit different. Here, many countries outperforms Austria, for example, Denmark and Estonia and these countries in the north of Europe. If we look situation in Indonesia to households, we have here in this FAO report, according to a study in Indonesia, focus on the city of Surabaya, so perhaps it's not even representative. So we have 77 kilo food waste estimated per capita. So a lot need to be done here. A lot of innovation, exnovation is urgently needed. So if we look to the figures here, we see that the amount of wasted food in tons is really very, very high. Even just for food and vegetables, we have 644 million tons of wasted food. So the value of wasted food per year is more than 1 trillion. To be precise, it is estimated that we will reach 1.5 trillion US dollar by 2030, just if food waste and loss are growing in the same speed. And if we look to the development in the different continents, and here I speak about Southeast Asia, we can see that here we have from 2000 to 2015 an increase of 67%. And if we go to 2030, we have an estimated, again, of 80% estimated growth. Of course, we should also say that if we look to Europe, we start with a very high wasted rate. So the growth is smaller, but still it is tremendous. It is tremendous. So there is a real need to do something against it. What are possible innovation? And here I think we can even speak about exnovation, because if waste is used for whatever reason, then we will have less waste, and that is really exnovation. Something is killed. So there's a real need to do there something. So situation is like this. Developed nations experience the greatest share of food waste towards the end of the value chain, as food becomes abundant and consumers more picky, affluent, and wasteful. %40 of losses happen at the retail or consumer level, according to FAO. Every year, consumers in rich countries waste almost as much food as the entire net food production of sub-Saharan Africa, 230 million tons. Per capita, waste by consumers is between 95 to 115 kilograms a year in Europe and North America. So the average of these two continents. The total share of food loss or wasted ranges from 15 to 25% across most regions. The one exception is North America, where loss and waste is approximately 42% of all available food. You can't imagine. So we have one of the SDGs is SDG 2 is no hunger, and 42% of all available food in North America is lost. So developing countries experience greater unintended post-harvest losses at the start of the value chain because of inadequate technology, transportation infrastructure, storage and cooling facilities, and more extreme weather conditions. So this is the problem of developing countries. A lot is lost during transportation, the lack of cooling facilities, and of course, to cope with weather conditions. The developing world accounts 44% of food waste and loss in the world. The developing countries, we have 40% of losses occur during harvest and processing level. Intervention within this system focus on training and upgrading technical capacity to reduce losses, increase efficiency, and reduce labor intensity of the technologies employed. So we can see for IPB or UUM, I think there's a lot of potential to train people for reducing this kind of food waste, and there's a lot of technology needed to be used to prevent this kind of loss. So according to FAO, if food waste were a country, so if we put all food waste together in the world, then food waste would be the third highest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. So if we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, carbon footprint, food waste is also very, very important. The third highest emitter of greenhouse gas emission is food waste, I think after China and US. Each year, we waste 1.3 gigatons of edible food, and this releases 3.3 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. This is without taking into account land use change. 1 kilo of food waste equals to 2.5 kilo of CO2 equivalent. So if we can prevent 1 kilo food waste, it equals 2.5 kilo of carbon dioxide equivalent. So this is the situation. And here you see already a bag too good to go. This is one of the innovations I want to show you. There's an app, Too Good to Go. Here you see this app. Yesterday, I click on this app, and then you get from this supermarket nearby my home. You can see here also the address, it's nearby my home. I can pick up in the evening this bag full of fruit and vegetables, which normally would cost 12 euro for 4 euro. So Too Good to Go means you click on it, and the supermarkets or restaurants, they could already estimate things will be wasted. So you can pick it up. It is from equal quality. The only thing is you don't know really what you will get. You will get a very nice mix normally in this supermarket. In other restaurants, so you know what you will get. But here you get a mix of nice food and vegetables, and you pick it up with your app, and you have paid it before. So you save for the consumer, you save 50, 60, 70% of the value. And what you win for carbon footprint, for food waste, is that this will not be thrown away. So all the bakeries in Vienna, the larger one, they all participate in this. And this is something which is very good. This is not an Austrian app. This is an international one to go. So this was started in the US, and until now, as you can see here, they have already saved 52 million US dollars. So this is one of the real achievements, and this is increasing year by year by year. It is ranked at number 10 of the most downloaded apps, and it is a very, very successful innovation. I cite here, our mission is to inspire and empower everyone to take action against food waste. With this in mind, we have set out a new ambition to contribute in every way we can to building the global food waste movement. It's only when we all come together to fight food waste that we'll be able to generate a positive change in society. So if we now ask, is this something what we could call exnovation? I think yes. It is about bringing out of the world things, food waste, which are no longer desirable for a wide variety of reasons. We have an innovative reduction of waste food. It removes or withdraws any usage of system that has been tested and validated but is no longer effective or inconsistent with strategy. The question is, what is the strategy? So the exnovation has to do with strategy. The strategy is SDG 12.3. We want to halve per capita the global food waste at the retail consumer level. So with this kind of very easy app, yeah, of course, there's a lot of development. We have one of the best examples, in my opinion, for innovation. Since we are here at the Agriculture University, I focus on food. Now we can also look to other countries. I'm quite sure many of you have heard about the Japanese Society 5.0 idea or plan of the Japanese government for a future society. Why 5.0? 1.0 is the hunting society, 2.0 the agriculture society, 3.0 industrial society, and 4.0 the information society. And Japan has the ambition to go further and to a society 5.0, which is a human-centered society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems by a system that highly integrates cyberspace and physical space. And if you look to this society 5.0, then most of the ideas are very much linked to automatic driving, on artificial intelligence, on so very high-fly technological solution, robots, this kind of things. And SDGs are only, unfortunately, a footnote, but it is also included. So there's also some words on food waste. So if we look to the new values in the field of agriculture, so we have AI analysis of big data using all kinds of information, meteorological data, crop growth data, market condition, food trends and needs, etc. So using AI analysis, big data, deep learning, this kind of things. Ultra labor saving and high production, of course, because workforce is a scarce source in Japan. So going to smart agriculture with automatic farm work, robot tractors, etc., etc. Things I myself is working for digital agriculture in our university. So optimizing water management, etc., etc. So things are very, very advanced, but not so many words on SDGs. So if you look in the Japanese plan 5.0, so we see SDGs don't play such a role. It is more on consumption, adapting the trends of consumptions, adapting the how to optimize growing of plants, etc., etc. How to deliver, so self-driving delivery, but you can also find somewhere the reduction of food waste. So here we see, if we compare United Nations documents and the Japanese document on Society 4.0, we have a different perspective. This reminds me, for those from the IT sector, to the 5th generation IT idea of Japan in the 80s, where they say, okay, we will go towards artificial intelligence, towards logic programming. So it was very high fly. It was not so successful, but after 30 years, we can say, many of the ideas of the 5th generation computers, IT of Japan, has been realized. So we have, even if this document doesn't cover SDGs in enough depth, we could imagine that the society in 2030, 2040, not 2030, so in 10, 15 years, will go toward many, many ideas of the Society 5.0 of Japan. So that's why I bring it here. So now I want to bring you another example of innovation, ex-innovation on food consumption from Austria. And this is about the vegan burger. So vegan burger, we have Burger King, also in Austria. I think we have it also in Malaysia and in Indonesia. Then some weeks ago, 19th of July, Burger King started at the West Station, railway station of Vienna, a 100% vegan Burger King. So I translated 100% Burger King at Vienna West railway station. You have longed for it and waited patiently. So there is a trend of young people to be vegan. So people were asking, when is a vegan Burger King pop up coming to Austria, etc., etc. And finally it is there. The first vegan Burger King restaurant in Austria will open July 19th, powered, and that is perhaps important, by the vegetarian butcher. We will explain later why this is so important. So there is a first Burger King, vegan Burger King in Europe, perhaps even in the world. The vegetarian Burger Kings were already there in Germany, but this is the first vegan. So they opened the world first and only 100% vegan branch at Vienna Westbahnhof at the station, etc., etc. So, and the idea is taste the meat of the future. And the interesting thing is the vegetarian butcher. The vegetarian butcher is, if we look to the web and speak with the people from Burger King, the vegetarian butcher, this company, is the real driver of the vegan burgers of the Burger King. So it is not Burger King. It is Burger King, of course, for the products, for the burgers, but behind it, the company producing the products is the vegetarian butcher. So if you look at honored to meet the Burger King, plant-based and vegan burgers at Burger King powered by the vegetarian butcher. The vegetarian butcher and Burger King are driving fast food revolution together with our support. So with support of vegetarian butcher, you can feast on plant-based burgers in all Burger King branches throughout Austria, etc., etc. It goes even further. Some of the Burger King restaurants, you have explicitly to ask for meat, otherwise you get the substituted burgers. Something very, very new, just started some weeks ago. So the motto applies is 0% meat, 100% taste, and it relies on soy, wheat-based products, etc., etc. You can imagine, speaking about SDGs, the carbon footprint of a vegetarian butcher is for sure much lower than a normal burger. And you can even, and these are some add-ons, you can, on your smartphone, you can also calculate your ecological footprint, and then you can say, okay, how many animals you have already freed from the food chain, etc., etc. So you can click, and then you calculate your weekly contribution, select products you consume on average per week, calculate the distribution. So there is something like also a mission of the butcher, of the vegetarian butcher. So replacing animal meat with new meat, etc., etc. So now we can ask, who is the vegetarian butcher? It's not Burger King, because behind it there's the driving force of the vegetarian butcher. And they are calculating, so you can calculate exactly the animals you have saved, etc., etc., etc. All kinds of calculate, very, very sophisticated. It's quite good. And now you can also see, okay, to calculate the environmental impacts of choosing our meats, etc., we consulted Unilever Safety Environment Assurance Center, etc., etc. You see, land use, water use is calculated according to the ISO standards. Results are generic for all markets. There are also variations for specific countries. So there is a mission not only to start in Austria, or Austria is just a lab for this, the first and only vegan Burger King, but this will be spread to other countries. And there's a lot of research going on already with the vegetarian butcher. And if I drill down, I can see, okay, with people that they are working worldwide, approximately 10 years already on this topic, very, very intensively with a lot of researchers. So, and then you can also do the greenhouse to say how many kilometers you have saved for your car, etc., etc. So it's a very sophisticated app, land use, etc., etc. But if you look now, who is now behind Vegetarian Butcher? This is Unilever, Austria, but to speak honestly, it is Unilever International. And if you look to the turnover of Burger King, it is approximately $2 billion, so not very large. But if you look to Unilever, it is $61 billion, and it is one of the largest brands in the area. So here we can see there's something going on, substituting meat by vegetarian products with sophisticated procedures. So now if we ask, is this something what we can call exnovation? Then I think yes. And here I think all points I try to use for the to define exnovations are kept, are true. Yeah? It is the opposite of innovation. It is really stopping the use of meat. It is using a strategy. This you can see by the apps that they really want to reduce the carbon footprint, etc., etc. It is about bringing out of the world things, action, behavior, and processes because of the use of their apps. So here we have really something, a process of exciting unsustainable infrastructures, technologies, products, and practices due to past dependence, resistance from established interests. Why they do it, of course, there will be some reasons discussed in their board. So they already predict that companies will be judged in this way. That's why they invested so much in the Vegetarian Butcher. And Burger King is just one of the allies to propagate it. So here we see there's really something going on. So now, just to end with, I take some examples, other examples, where, honestly speaking, I have to say I'm not quite sure if these are real examples of exnovation. These are innovations. So if we look to the FAO Innovation Prize winners, so of the last 2 years, so we see in 2019, this was the winner was Imaflora from Brazil, and this is a digital. They have a digital platform called Origins Brazil, which links buyers with indigenous producers in Amazonas, and with a QR code allow buyers and consumers to track its origin and history. So it increases the transparency and minimizing need of intermediaries. So something, honestly speaking, could also be done by bright students everywhere. Very, very useful, but we could ask, is this something to do with exnovation, or is this just innovation as usual? There was a co-winner. This was sandbar cropping. Sandbar cropping is doing something like sowing sacks of compost in otherwise barren riverbeds, starting in Bangladesh. And so you can grow crops where normally you have just water or flood water. Perfect thing. It has used more than 4,000 hectares to grow 100,000 tons of pumpkins valued at 15 million pounds, etc., etc. So very, very useful. That's why the winner. But if we ask what has been substituted, it's difficult to say. It is a real innovation, but perhaps not an exnovation. I don't know. Just because, and we have category B winners. These are the winners for innovation by young people. That is the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, doing training on a range of skills, etc., etc. Very, very important, very innovative. And if you look to the last one, 2021, the award went to iFarm 360. This was crowdfund smallholder farmers in Kenya, enabling to invest there, giving crop advice, supervision, farming input. So like parts of we have seen with the budget. So it is innovative. There's even a special mention, not a prize, but because it is so good and just nearly got the prize, they have a special mention. It's a digital technology innovation to conduct sustainability verification for underserved smallholder coffee farmers globally, called Enveritas. So we see here all the prizes are more helping. That is another one, Bounty Field. I think Bounty Field is also active in Indonesia. So offer young people, rural areas, new opportunities as post-harvest technology entrepreneurs, providing fee-for-service to farmers to process, preserve, and sell their crops. So very, very good. But still, the question is, for all these FAO prizes, are there exnovators or innovators? Or is it even important to discuss about exnovation and innovation? In the field of coal, of course, which was the impetus why I take this topic, it was important because we could see that both the coal tonnage is increasing, and also the alternative energy use is increasing. So we have not this kind of exnovation, which is important to say, okay, we have to reduce something and to increase something. Otherwise, we will go even to the other way. We are increasing in both directions. So just to end with, I want to end perhaps the interaction between creative destruction and innovation. So the first economist who used the word innovation was Joseph Schumpeter, Austrian, and he coined the concept of creative destruction, yeah, and innovation. And for him, creative destruction is the engine for the development of economy. So in some way, now we can say, is there a big difference between creative destruction and exnovation? I think things economists should answer. Especially in the food and agriculture domain, I think exnovation is essential. We have seen it. I gave you two examples, one on food waste and the other on the changing to vegan. It's not necessarily vegan. We can also change to other insects or whatever, or to vertical agriculture use, etc. So there are also other possibilities. And to close with, I would say, being in Java, the island of Candi Prambanan, we could perhaps regard exnovation as the destruction of the old, leading to the creation of the new, as represented by the main temple of Candi Prambanan for Shiva. With this, I want to close, and in the spirit of SDG 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. I would like to let us tightly cooperate within the frame of ASEAN UNINET, where both IPB, UUM, and my universities are members of. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Aminjo. It was a very interesting topic. So we have a topic about no transformation without X innovation. So we have heard about X innovation. So before this, people might not even ever heard of X innovation. So we have disruptive innovation, we have sustaining innovation, but now we have X innovation. So, and then Professor Aminjo have given two examples, which is the food waste and the vegan burger as an examples of innovation. So there are several questions that we receive in the chat, several comments, and then there is a comment from Muhammad Masudur Rahman saying that it's a great session, full of insightful findings. Thank you. And then Ayu Nabila asked about, I'm interested in food loss and waste handling. Okay, in your point of view, Professor Aminjo, which is better between the processing of food loss and waste into a new product like energy and feed, or with distribution of food loss and waste? Yes, Professor.
Yeah, so the question is, if I can look at the chat. Anyway, so the question is,
which is better?
The question, what is better? I think if we don't need any transformation, yeah, it is always easier. If there's a need and we can use it immediately, yeah, I think also according to the energy use, etc., this is always the best to do. Yeah? On the other way, if there's some waste, then we have to think about what should we do with it. Yeah? We can transform it to methane or whatever, so that it can be used for other goals, or use it for industrial use, to other products, etc. So this is always this, in my opinion, the second choice. But the first choice should be like the example with Too Good to Go, that we try to deliver food to the consumer as it is planned from the very beginning.
Okay.
And only that is I think normal. That is also the case for fishery, for everything. That is what you do. If you have the fish, then it is best to. But if not, then we should make of it, I don't know, ikan asin or whatever. Yeah? And of the waste, from the waste of this fish, you can still do some other things. I think traditional cultures have already also this mindset. Only this is lost in the last few decades.
Okay. Okay, what about if, this is from Dr. Muhammad Farizal, what if we recycle it to useful fertilizers? Recycle the food waste into fertilizers.
Yeah, that is what I say. So if there's no other possibility, then we should recycle it and use it for different purposes. And this could be something which is, there are also some very extreme approaches, like near Yogyakarta has a very advanced permaculture plant, which was really amazing. So this is really circular economy. Nothing is wasted there, nothing. And even so the energy came from the agriculture. So there is like a closed loop permaculture. Yeah? But I think this are for larger areas, this will be not possible. So we have to be more creative and use. But Farisal is of course right. This is the way to do it.
Okay. From Auzi Asfarian, you mentioned that innovation talks about how to introduce improvement to society, while X-Novation is about ending an old technology. So introducing innovation involves several barriers such as infrastructure, literacy, mindset, cost, etc. So based on your experience, Prof, are the barriers to the X-Innovation the same as innovation? And can similar strategies between X-Innovation and innovation apply?
Yeah, and in my opinion, X-Novation is innovation plus, if I understand it correctly. For me, it's also, so I was inspired by this talk 2 weeks ago, yeah? And then I start to drill down on X-Novation, yeah? And in the literature. So in my opinion, X-Novation is innovation plus, meaning you have to innovate something, but plus means that is not enough. In the sense of Schumpeter, you should also destroy the old one. So if I develop, and food is the easiest in this way, because if I go in the direction vegan, of course, meat will be reduced. So it is nearly trivial. Or if I say food to go, so this food is rescued, so food waste is diminished or is reduced. But in other areas, I think, like in energy, we say, okay, we use wind energy, etc., etc. But if there's no effect, as shown by Vinagera, this was the inspiring talk of hers, where I think, okay, I have to look for it. So we are increasing both the wind power, etc., etc., etc. But coal is also increasing, like in China. Yeah, what is the sense of this kind of innovation? China is even, as pointed out by the leader in alternative energies, but still they're increasing their coal also. So this must be, and that is what was meant in one of my statements to say. So an X-Novation should be innovation plus fulfilling some strategy. And if the strategy is reducing carbon dioxide or whatever, then we should say, okay, doing this, I have to close some of my coal plants or whatever. Otherwise, we will go the Chinese way, saying increasing coal and increasing alternative energies, where they are also the world leaders. But this makes no sense.
Yes. Okay, just I'm wondering, between disruptive innovation, sustaining innovation, and X-Novation, what is the relationship between disruptive innovation, sustaining innovation? Is there any relationship with the X-Novation?
I think if we look to the logical distance, it is nearer to sustaining.
Nearer to sustaining.
Yeah. And not with. Yeah.
So when innovators,
there is a strategy to say, okay, I want to do something in the direction of SDGs or whatever.
Okay. So when innovators, they start to work on innovation, should they immediately or in the beginning to consider X-Novation strategy, or it will be too early for them as it will be discouraging people to innovate?
It depends, I think. Normally, people are doing innovation because they are driven by their enthusiasm or by business or something like this. And sometimes thereafter you can see, okay, there's also some effect on this, and then you continue. So I don't know if you have something like Gojek or Uber or something like this, where people will say, okay, with this we don't need an own car or whatever. Then there is an effect, but it is, I think, not the impetus to do it. sometimes the impetus is more just to be innovative, to make profit, etc. The economic way to do. Yeah, but if there is something, the strategy behind, and if government encourage and give some subsidies, etc., then I think we should do something like Exnovation.
Okay. There is a question from Ajeng Siti Agreni of IPB. She asks, does the COVID-19 pandemic affect the increase in the percentage of food loss and waste? And what factors influence the increase in the percentage of food loss and waste in the era of COVID-19 pandemic?
I don't have any statistics, but in Austria, the situation was like this, that most people, so delivery is getting more and more important. Also things like Amazon, etc., for the non-food. And for the food, of course, a lot has been ordered to home. Yeah? So perhaps food waste could be less. I really don't know. One real effect is that many restaurants in Austria have to close and are closed now. Due to the pandemic.
Enid Gunawan has a question. I have a question regarding the innovation in sustainable food in developing countries. In your opinion, what should be the priority for developing countries like Indonesia to be able to promote innovation in food sustainability?
Yeah, I think one should be aware that about the carbon footprint of food. And to speak it perhaps from Austria. So if we import avocado, yeah, and we know for 1 kilo avocado you need, I don't know, more than 1,000 liters of water, whatever, and then you have the carbon footprint of the transportation, etc. Is it the right way to use this, to consume it? Yeah, perhaps there are also other fruits in Austria, so perhaps we shouldn't do it. Yeah? The other thing is the same also, I could imagine for Indonesia. So if I say, okay, you can buy in Indonesia, in the luxury supermarkets, everything from Australia, etc., etc. The question is this necessary, or should we be more local, for example? So I think the more local you are, the better. You don't need the I don't know, the pears from Australia or the durian from Thailand or whatever.
Okay. Okay. Andiga Dompak Tarihoran has a question. Maybe you can ask Andiga.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmad. This is very interesting topic about food waste. I just had my lunch, nasi padang, and I realized I waste so many food. I have fish and a lot of bones. But please give me enlightenment. Yeah, if waste food included an edible part, this is not fair for non-vegetarian. This is my thought. Yeah. If we throw the wasted food to the ground, it will compose to something and used by maybe another creature, animal. Food waste, it means that food waste is life for other living thing. Yeah, this is the first question. The second question, do you think in the future somehow, somewhat, in some degree, people will have make a simple food that we can eat as a whole without any waste? Yeah. And the third question, it is about exnovation. If I take out the bones from a chicken before I cook it, can we call it a exnovation or not? I mean, just a simple chicken without a bone. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Professor
please.
Amincho.
Yeah. So the first question is, so what you say, if I eat, you are from Padang or whatever, yeah? So I think the Padang way to eat is the right way anyway, because you get this kind of food on your table, and normally there's no waste because you just take the things you want to eat. My dream is to have a Padang restaurant in Vienna anyway. That is what I see from there, because I love the Padang way of eating, because it is an alternative also to McDonald's or whatever, because it is fast food. You get it on your table and you can eat immediately. And it is something which I very much. But to come to your question, so first, you are right. If I try to compose my bones, etc., and use it for feeding other animals, etc., this is a great thing. But honestly speaking, if we calculate it in a scientific way, still, until you get a chicken or a cow, you need a lot of energy for the calories you take. So I think in the future, because we are dealing with increasing population in the world, perhaps it will not be possible to feed 10 billion inhabitants here with the life standard of the middle class everywhere. So we will go to a civilization where perhaps 1 or twice a week we will eat meat, and according to medical doctors, this is also more healthy in some way. So I think that this, so we will be forced to do it. And if you say we want to produce perhaps some meat without any waste, people are working on it. So I have myself eaten such a artificial meat made from one cell of an animal, and then it is grown by a Hungarian scientist. And if you eat it, it is of course something like a replication of the animal before. Perhaps this could be one of the future trends. It is a real innovation. It is like vertical farming is a innovation. This kind of thing could be possible in the future. Yes, of course. Or use of insects, use of whatever. I think the original cultures of all cultures are defined by not wasting anything. So you use everything for some reason. Nothing should be disposed. But in the 21st century, due to industrialization, etc., we are far away from the natural way of living. So if you go to people living in the forests, etc., that don't waste anything.
On the last question on the whether removing the bone out of a chicken is innovation.
It's not innovation, because what is the innovation? What is the innovation? That is what I am doing every day. If I eat a chicken and then you throw it away, you can give it to your dog or whatever. Yeah. So you can say, okay, I use this. At least you don't throw it away. The dog can eat. As far as I know, dogs shouldn't eat chicken bones. But anyway, you can give it to somebody. Yeah. Or you can do it to your compost, and that's, of course that is possible. But if you calculate the whole cycle, it is still a lot of energy.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we want to invite you for our second photo session, and I want to remind to you all, make sure that your video is on so that we can see your face. And could you please imitate my pose like this? Make a K symbol with your right hand. Okay. K symbol. Okay. And please hold this pose for just 1 minute so that our committee can take your picture. I will count down from slide 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Pardon. Thank you very much for your participation in this photo session. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are proceeding to our second parallel session. And the mechanism of this session is quite same with first parallel session before. You are going to be separated in breakout rooms, and after that, you will be back again to the main room for the closing session. To the host, you may proceed all participants to the breakout room. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again to our main room of Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022. We are very grateful that you have joined our session from the beginning until finished, and we hope that you can get new insights and exchange useful information regarding your works. We are now going into the closing session, but before we close the conference, we will hear an award announcement from BIEC 2022. I am sure that some of you are very excited for this announcement, and for this reward, we would like to invite Dr. Irkan Fahmi, Dean of the School of Business, IPB University, to announce the winners. Please, Dr. Irkan Fahmi, the room is yours.
Thank you, Maipa. You can hear my voice clear? Hello?
Clear, Pak.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, before we close the conference, let's have some announcement about the best in some category. Yeah, please note that it doesn't mean that who are not selected as the best is bad, but we have to choose the best from the, I think all are best, all are good papers and presentation. These are only the best according to the panel. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 category. Yeah, 4 category. I will announce it later on from the third winner, then the second winner, and the best of the best. Yeah, the first winner. The first category is the best live presenter. Yeah, the best live presenter. The third winner is Adrian Ramdana Rao from IPB University. The title is Technology Adoption in Food Supply Chain to Tackle Climate Change. Practice in smallholders, farmers, and SMEs. Yeah. The author is Adrian Ramdana Rao, Adikna P. Inanka, Auditya Anwar. The second winner, Muhammad Faisal Ahmad Zaid, University Utara Malaysia. The title, Understanding Lean Awareness Gaps Between Management and Operation Teams in an Aerospace Manufacturing Company in Malaysia. The author, Muhammad Faisal Ahmad Zaidi, Siti Asma Muhammad Rosdi, Fatimah Salwa Abdul Hadi, and HM Bilal. And the first winner is Auzi Asfarian from IPB University. The title, Digital Twin Platform Architecture Design to Support Smart Aeroponic Potato Cultivation in Indonesia. The authors are Auzi Asfarian and Wulandari Wulandari. Congratulations to the 3 best live presenters. Now we move to the best recorded presentation. Second category is the best recorded presentation. We start from the third winner is Syafini Muhammad Syafi, University Utara Malaysia.
The title, A Review of Energy Management in Farm Automation, Case of Paddy Plantation. Author Safini Muhammad Shafi and Nursia Hami. Congratulations. The second winner is Lela Wahyu Anggraini, Spandawa Agri Indonesia. The title, An Economic Analysis of PPAI Technology Application in Irrigated Rice Cultivation, a study in Nagekeo, East Nusa Tenggara. The authors Lela Wahyu Anggraini, Prabawati Yunita Putri, Septria binti Nadifah, and Muhammad Firdaus. And the first winner is Intan Delia Rustandi, sb-ipb University, a comparative analysis social enterprise ecosystem in South Korea and Indonesia. The authors Intan Delia Rustandi, Agustina Widi, and Asaduddin Abdullah. Congratulations, Intan Delia Rustandi. We go to the best paper in this second Business and Innovation Engineering Conference 2022. And the third winner is this is Bhavani Balakrishnan, University Utara Malaysia, with the title The Effect of Government Initiative on Industrial Revolution 4.0, Adoption Among Malaysian Electrical and Electronic Small and Medium Enterprises. With authors Bhavani Balakrishnan, Zakira Osman, Muhammad Faisal Ahmad Zaidi, and Wan Ahmad Jafar Wan Yahya. The second winner is Rio Kevin Marcelo Alwi, IPB University, titled Third Party Initiative for MSME to Accelerate the Market Reach in the Greater Jakarta. The authors are Rio Kevin Marcelo Alwi, Alika Samira Nisha, Muhammad Bildan Amarullah, Asaduddin Abdullah, and Fitriani Solihat. And the first winner is Andiga Dompak Betarihoran from IPB University with the title Developing an Integrated Conceptual Model of Dynamic Capabilities for MSMEs in Agribusiness Sector, a Systematic Review. The authors Andigo Dibirat Tarihoran, Musa Hubais, Siti Jahro, and Mimi Zulbainari. Congratulations to Andiga and friends. And the final category will be the best e-poster. The best e-poster. We start from the third winners is Radwan Sneasel, University of Basra, Iraq. Title Factors Affecting Sustainable Agrotourism, a Review Study. With the authors Retno Sakti Sumardi, Muhammad Najib, Anwar Shabali Muhammad, Derry Dardanella, Radwan Sneasel. The second winner is Raden Isma Anggraini, IPB University Indonesia. The title, Me Dietary, Digital Platform for Providing Dietary Needs, with author Akti Naria Nastiti Widianti, Hartoyo, and Raden Isma Anggraini. And the first winner is Ajang Siti Anggraini, IPB University Indonesia. The title, Sustainability of Hospital Industry, a case study of Hotel Selarong, Bogor. The authors, Ajang Siti Anggraini, Siti Jahro, and Ono Suparno. Congratulations to all the winners. Congratulations to all the participants. And may you have success in your study or your writing of the paper in the future. Back to you, Faiba.
Okay, thank you very much for the announcement, sir. Congratulations for all winners and participants once again. We appreciate your efforts into this program and we hope you the best for your future work. Now, we'll hear a closing speech by Professor Dr. Nur Hasni Osman, School of Technology Management and Logistics, University Utara Malaysia. To Professor Nur Hasni, the room is yours.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Miss MC. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you hear me?
Clearly, Prof.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good evening. The Honorable Guest, IPB Rector, Prof. Dr. Arif Satria, Acting Dean, School of Business, IPB, Dr. Idkan Fahmi, all distinguished lecturers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, we are coming towards the end of the Business Innovation and Engineering Conference, BIEC 2022. This event marked another milestone in the collaboration between IPB University, Indonesia, University Utara Malaysia, Putra Business School Malaysia, and Warsaw University of Life Sciences Poland. On behalf of UUM, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to IPB for inviting us to be the co-host for the second year running. The theme Smart Technology to Mitigate Climate Change Issues to Support Sustainable Development is indeed a timely discourse for scholars and researchers to contribute their works. We know that climate change issues disturb every single aspect of our life. From lands to oceans, human beings are very much reliant on nature for their life. Any damage to the natural ecosystem will consequently lead to various challenges such as food security, as well as social and economic resilience. Nevertheless, the rapid advancement of technology also provides a huge potential to be explored in addressing these issues. We are in the era where smart technology has innovated the way we do things. Therefore, that is the reason why we are here today, to contribute in our own discipline, how we can support the global sustainability agenda in light of climate change issues. I hope all participants had a great time getting involved in scholarly discourse and knowledge sharing sessions throughout the conference and summer course program. I strongly believe that IPB is very committed in making BIEC as a significant communication forum related to business innovation and engineering in Southeast Asia. It is high time for us to disseminate this kind of global discourse that can contribute to the development of a better nation and a better world. On behalf of UUM, I would like to congratulate IPB, the co-host partners and BIEC organizing committees for smoothly running this successful event. We feel greatly honored to be invited as a co-host with renowned institutions. I hope this collaboration will not end here, but as a stepping stone to many collaborations in the near future, insyaAllah. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Professor Nur Hasni, for the memorable speech. Ladies and gentlemen, all distinguished speakers and participants, as time goes by, Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2022 has come to an end. On behalf of all the committee, we would like to say thank you very much for your participation today. And we hope that today's conference can give you some knowledge gain as well as networking opportunity. As your master of ceremony, I will officially close the online international conference today. Once again, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next year on Business Innovation and Engineering Conference 2023. Have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.